Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. Happy Monday. I'm here with my co-host, Brent Sopel. How are you?
There's not a cloud in the sky. It's like 50 degrees, so it's a little warm. My allergies haven't hit, so we better tape this quickly before my allergies kick in and I'm sneezing and snotting everywhere. So,
So it's a good start. It's a good start.
It's a good Monday.
A good start. So we, as we always do, we kind of, as weeks go on, last week we didn't record. I was traveling. We had stuff going on all over the place. So we didn't get a chance to record, but the week before we recorded like 3. And I love like when we do that, but then we kind of last night we're like, oh, wait, what do we want to talk about? And there's a text that you got from a mom that I want to start with because I think it's really awesome. And then we're going to take it kind of down just for anyone that's listening that likes to kind of know like, hey, where could this go? Then we're going to take it into me in a classroom taking a boating class.
Do you want me to read it?
If you want to read it, you can read it. Yeah.
Okay, let me get through the first. Okay, I was with her son. Well,
do you have it? Because I have it.
I've got it. I've got it.
Okay. And you could pick pieces out. Like you don't have to read the whole thing. You know what I mean?
It's a mom from Brother Rice, where I was coaching. It starts off talking about her son. I'm doing some lessons right now for kids, and she just wanted to say, apologize, can't make this session because we booked on a couple of nights. But he said he had a really rough first season. With his confidence low, because of you, he's gained a lot of confidence back. He said you're by far the best coach he's ever had. So obviously that made me smile. But she got into her daughter because she'd reached out to me last year saying my daughter's got dysgraphia, dyscalculia and dyslexia, if I remember correctly. And she said your accommodations really helped her. All of her grades went up. She even went from a C- in math to an A- in math due to the suggestions of less questions on the page and then testing in a quiet place. Thank you very much. And it goes on and on. But
can I read the last part? Because it's it basically says, thank you so much for everything. You've truly helped both of my kids, and I'm so grateful for you. God bless you, my friend. I'm sure we'll see you soon. And then it goes on. But like, you get these just by touching base with people and being like, hey, okay, if someone has this accommodation has worked, we've seen it work. It might not be mentioned in the IEP. Teachers might not mention it, but you can mention it and bring it in. And so then I'm going to let you kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Like you said, I get these all the time. And this goes kind of with the angle that we take all the time. We don't need to be told, what to do. We live, we live it every day. And this goes back to, people get diagnoses, however, through their school or through neuropsychs. And I'm going to just go off of neuropsychs. Last few I've had to do, I shared them with you, parents, send me their neuropsych, which is, I think 14 pages is the shortest through, 20, 22 pages. And they come in and they hand it to a teacher. And then on the back side of it, towards the end, it gives out the suggestions and the asks are, what the recommendations are. And first off, they're in doctor terms. They don't break down into non-doctor terms, is how I always say it. And they want to hand that to a teacher and have a teacher understand what that means. As you've come across with Montgomery is, sorry, I didn't even get a chance to read it. The teacher is not a neuropsych. The teacher is a teacher. So when I get those neuropsychs, I'll read through it. Then I'll give my suggestions and recommendations back. And what those recommendations are are things that a neuropsych will never put in their paper. For this girl, when it comes to decalculus, they hand you a sheet of paper and there's like 10 questions on there. I'm like, where do I begin? I'm lost. So one of the recommendations I said, if I remember correctly, I said no more than 4, or I said, if I remember correctly, 3 or 4 questions on a page. And I think I said double-sided.
Mm-hmm.
But so where I'm going with is, you take a look at a piece of paper. There's a book. We remember all the paragraphs we had to count to when it was our turn to read. There's too much on that paper. The anxiety that comes with it. Oh my God, I'm on the first question. It's a division question, and I'm lost, and I'm trying to put this together. And then out of the corner of my eye, I can see I've got like 5 more rows of them. It's straight anxiety. For her, I think I said 2 or 3 questions. Okay, it's manageable. Even if there's 20 questions in that page of homework, if that has to be on 10 pieces of paper, some people would take that as, I'd rather have 3 sheets of paper, not 10. For us, that's the opposite. Because I'd rather be able to focus on the one question and not see 9,000 words, or not see 9,000 letters or numbers, where it's just straight anxiety, or the teacher comes in, oh yeah, Brent, here's 50 pages of math you're behind. Completely gone. My anxiety shuts down. I shouldn't say that. My anxiety goes through the roof, and my anxiety shuts down. So, my long and short is that there needs to be, when it comes to the neuropsych after that, there needs to be more to that. It needs to be dehumanized, isn't the right word. It needs to be humanized, because I think that neuropsych is dehumanized, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, because and I know when you talk, and I always kind of break it down, like, these are the ones that you've come across. This is what time and time again, this has happened. So from what I remember from Montgomery, he got his whole neuropsych, right? Yep. There was a whole big thing. We brought it to the school psychologist, who then breaks it down into the IEP. Now, every person is going to be different. Every district is going to be different. And that's why it's really important for what we're doing in the education process. So if your district doesn't have all the understanding, because some districts are better. Like, I know there was Montgomery's his math was broken down, and that takes it really to the executive functioning part of when people are dyslexic, dysgraphic, ADHD, there's usually an executive functioning portion. Really, I think most people have executive functioning deficiencies, even if they're not, if they don't have learning issues. And it's one thing that I think the school really, like, schools in general should be teaching everyone, because it is something, it's like tackling. And when we talk about executive functioning, when Brent's talking about like all the math on the page, or if you go to like a restaurant where there's like so many pages and it's like, you can't undo it. Or
it's the Cheesecake Factory menu.
Yeah. Right. And you always say that. Or I bring it to, like, if you have a house that has like 15 rooms and every single one of them is a fucking shit show, where do you start? And it's that starting. And a lot of kids in general, whether they're, have learning disabilities or not, they don't have that. So going, and after that neuropsych is broken down to the IEP, that IEP is then handed out to the teachers, and it is in more educational forms for the most part. However,
was Montgomery's done to your satisfaction now, that to what we're talking about? Obviously, because now, it's been a lot longer. You've been educated, and so if you could, what you can remember, is it broken down to what you think is right now that you have the education behind that, or is it still behind? Because they may break it down. No dyslexic should ever have to do an oral presentation, ever.
Right.
Those things will never ever be
in
an IEP.
Never. No, and you have to fight for those. Yeah.
That psychologist, or that school psychologist, that is broken down, is not dyslexic.
Right. So the interesting thing, so we had an awesome, the doctor that was Montgomery's doctor. So originally, and just to bring people back up to speed, if they're just tuning in or if they listened to before, Montgomery was diagnosed in school, third grade. We knew he was dysgraphic because his name's Montgomery. There's really no way of getting around that.
It's still child abuse. What's a DFC? Who do we have to call? In New York,
right? DYFS, right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it is right. It's very long. So that was like really early on, and especially with all of our learning disabilities, it was like, we're okay. I think you're getting some here. We did not know about his dyslexia because he memorized, and that's like, if you have not heard that, you can go back and listen to, because he memorized. It was fascinating breaking his brain down and figuring out where he struggled and where he didn't, because he had some really strong, but then really, really weak. So he had an awesome doctor. So we went through the school, because I was like blind, right? I was like, no, they're going to do a great job. We're friends with them. Everyone loves him, and they really, truly did. And everyone loves, loves me and da, da, da. So that we went to the school first. I didn't want to throw things down, because the town that we lived in, everything was on steroids and everyone made like a mountain out of a molehill. And I was like, okay, that's not my personality. Let's just kind of flow. Montgomery still had good confidence. So I was like, let's just not like fucking freak out, and so we went through the school, realized, okay, I don't really love this, but so then we went to Dr. Heitzman. I'm going to call him out because I absolutely loved him. His neuropsych was so thorough. He actually even came to the school with us and told them what they needed to do for him and broke it down. I have to say, the district later were like, okay, that's a great doctor, because everyone that they had before was like a factory. Every one of their IEPs was exactly the same. It didn't break it down individually. He broke it down because, as I said, Montgomery was a really interesting case because of his strengths were really strong, but his weaknesses were so weak that it was like nothing that they've ever seen. So they had to really break it down. Now, a couple of things that I want to jump in on that is interesting that you just said is right. There's things that they're never going to put in, but you can fight for them. And sometimes you will get it done in a district. So when we moved to New York, I hated how they broke down his IEP. I hated it. And it was like, I'm like, guys, we have this here. We know that this is working, because he came out of that dyslexic school. So I knew the things that he was now successful in doing in school because of his accommodation. So I went apeshit, and basically like fought with everyone until some things were brought back. Other things, they were like, you can't. And I'm like, okay, are we going to sue? Are we going to fight? Whatever. So we kind of just went with it. There's things that we didn't put in. One of the things that I really, really wanted in, and it never came about, was because he's so strong with his like listening and then being able to speak. Just like me, we can speak it. You put it on a test, you're going to fail it. Doesn't matter. He could know everything. If it goes on a test, he's going to fail it. It's just the way it is. Yeah. So I was like, why won't you guys let him do the test orally? And they're like, we can't do it. A year after year, we can't do it. Fought. And Montgomery finally was like, Mom, enough. Like, basically was like, I am fine. Just stop. And I was like, okay, he's old enough. I'm going to stop. And it wasn't like I fought every day, but like there were certain teachers that I knew he knew the material, and he would come home and when, he would be like, I failed that. And I'm like, but you knew it. You said you knew it. And again, I don't get overly involved in my kids' education because of my shit. And also I'm sometimes not as helpful. They all kind of know how they learn, but it's just like those kind of things that you brought up by breaking the down. Actually, his dyslexic school did that for him. And that was where I was like, oh, you're actually not as bad as math as we originally thought. Here's some of the things and so I basically brought it to the math teacher and I was like, you will do this. And if you don't, I will be your fucking worst nightmare.
And that's obviously the fact that you had a neuropsych that was that detailed.
Yeah, I was really, really fortunate.
I haven't come across that. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say there isn't. So, I just want to be clear that I haven't come across that. Like you saw that neuropsych that we talked about. Like, what was that? So, obviously, we're when I talk, it groups everybody together, but I haven't found one. So, thank goodness, that you guys had somebody that great, because as a mom, giving your dyslexic kid a name like that, like you said, that's child abuse. So we'll talk about that off air and we'll call it DPS.
Yeah, that my mom said before. She's like, "Wait, what if you have a boy?" Because we didn't find out. She's like, "With all our learning disabilities, I don't think that's a good idea. Do you even know how to spell it?" And I was like, "Mom, no, I don't know how to spell it. I'm going to have to say it in my head every single time. However, I love it, and it's a strong name, and that's what it's going to be." Yeah. She was like, "I don't think that's a good idea."
We're talking yesterday because I was watching some golf, and his last name is he's Asian. I don't know if he's Japanese or Chinese. His last name is M. I am. I'm like, the best name ever would be TJM. 4 letters, cut and dry. I'm done. Get me in, get me out.
Well, that's what Montgomery would come. I remember the first time he's like, "Can I just be called M or MJ?" Because his middle name was James. And it was like, "Yeah, honey, you could do whatever." Because he literally couldn't. He only could get an M on a piece of paper. That's like with his dyslexia. That was like the biggest thing. I felt so bad for him. Well, and then he went to Monty for a long time, and now he writes Montgomery.
Vince, Vince was on the phone. I was ordering something. He goes, "Excuse me? What the fuck did you just say? Did you just say your name is Lee?" Yeah. If I'm at like, I think I was at like Chick-fil-A or something. What's your name? It's either TJ or Lee. Because it's like, are those your stage names? Those are your porn names? I'm like, no, those are my right. Because now with my accent, which I've been trying to get rid of for years, if I leave a voicemail for somebody, they will call back 10 out of 10 times and ask for Brian.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They will never. Nope.
I'm Julie or Julia. I'm never Juliet.
Yeah. So I'm like, no. So it's become, if I'm like, I don't
so
coffee, funny. Like a Starbucks or, I'm Lee or TJ. That's it.
Lee or TJ. It's hilarious.
It's simple. It's easier. It's, but it's having to think about every move we make. And that's why, you talk about is the less, and obviously talking about the, myself and the book, trying to write about myself, we talk about is, some of these correlations that are put into place here. Like hockey was, the more I could just not think and I could just play. Same thing as life. The more, actually, we talked about this morning on the podcast, overthinking. We overthink everything because we struggle at the simplest things. And that's being non-dyslexic and you're able to do the simplest things, which is reading. Because I never thought about this. Is there anything else you do more than read?
Walk. I guess if you don't move your body. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting though is I am really not an overthinker, but I think that's because I'm my attention deficit and I'm impulsive. But I want to take it to the class, so that was actually a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Because and I do think people with personalities, because I think my daughter's a little bit more of an overthinker. And Montgomery and I are not big overthinkers. There's times we probably should overthink. And so we might be also saying it in a different way, the overthinking. But I think this is actually why this is a really good segue is, and even though I was not I really wasn't officially diagnosed until later in life, but there was understanding in my house because of my dad and my sister, right? Montgomery obviously had the understanding when he was diagnosed in 3rd grade. Because I knew I always struggled, but it was kind of like, it was more of like my attention deficit that was always talked about. And then it was like, oh no, well, you actually are dyslexic too. And I was like, okay, that would have answered a lot of questions. I'm so glad that I know now. But whatever. There is though, and yes, a personality thing. But then I also think when as you said, when you're struggling all the time. So I don't know when this is going to air, but I took a boating class. We're in June. Okay. Because I wanted to be able to take the boat out when my husband turned 50, we got like a little boat. It was COVID. It was actually the best thing we ever did. He grew up in the Bronx, but grew up at this little marina where all of his cousins and family, and they all had like these wooden boats. And it was like, they just like hung out. And then they're, it just was like kind of their life. When we were having kids, we would always go to the beach, but Dan played golf and then wanted to be with the kids. So it was like, you can't have like too many hobbies, or then you're not around, you're doing too many things. So he was like, I cannot do both. So then later in life we did. And it's literally one of my favorites. I've talked about when I'm on the water, my brain settles. Like it's just really a calming thing for me, the water and everything. So I'm like, last year when I started my new job and Dan's been going back to the city, I didn't go on the boat that much. And it was because I don't drive it myself. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to do it. I also do actually like when he does it, because then I don't have to do anything. I kind of just get him for a ride. So there's a little bit of that as well. However, I'm like, no, I want to be able to do it this year. I can take some calls when I'm on the water. Like I can do work. I can't obviously record podcasts, but I can do work when I'm out on the water. And I think that is like a good idea. I'm going to do that. So right when I said it to him, he kind of helped me, and I'm fine open water. I just go fast and I like know the rules, and I'm like, okay, I can do that.
You know the rules? Okay.
Well, I kind of thought
lead right into the next segue on that one.
I kind of thought I knew the rules. Anyways, but parking, going in and out of the slip. I mean, I'm not the best parker in a car. So I was like, ooh, this could be hairy. How many flat
tires have you had?
That is because of nails, and that's not my fault. But yes, I do often get flat tires. Okay. However, I don't hit curbs as much, but I
know someone who does.
Yes, I do. I know. I've heard the stories. Right. But so, I'm going to be honest. I probably am not depth perception and that kind of stuff. I'm not great at. I'm not very good at, and I don't think that's my dyslexia. I don't know what that is, but I'm not good at that.
I don't have glasses here, but I can't put them on. But go ahead.
So that day I said to Dan, I want to do it. The marina that we have our boat at sent an email and was like, oh, they're doing a ladies like boat thing. And I was like, oh, great. I'm signing up. Didn't think of it because next year, apparently you need a license. Now, all these times you didn't need a license. I should have done this like years ago, but I didn't. So, and then you have to take a class, like a long boating class, take a test. And I was like, I'm fucking out. I'm not doing that. So let me do this before.
Is that the United States or is that New York State, or do you know?
It's probably fucking New York.
Yeah, fucking New York.
I'm sure it's New York. I don't know though. Actually, people might be like, no, everyone else has to. Fucking New York hasn't, and they're now following suit. I'm not really sure. Yeah. But so I got the itinerary and it said 2 hours of class. And I literally was like, oh, I started sweating and I'm like, class. Okay. I thought they were just going to go over some stuff in it. I thought it was going to be on the water and they were going to teach there. And it was like, I learn when I'm doing. Like I cannot sit and learn. I need to be doing it to be able to comprehend it. So I was like, all right, fuck. Okay. But I still went. I had a little anxiety about it, but I was like, I'm excited because I want to be able to learn and be able to do this. I like to be independent in things. So we sit down and it's literally the book. And I was like, someone's like, oh, I think we're going to be taking the test. I literally start sweating and I'm like, oh, fuck. It's the whole book and I'm like, wait, I thought this was just like a light ladies, like a little lady thing. Like, I didn't know about a test.
That just brings up, that's a whole new way. What, you get lighter books than we do? This is the guys, this is the ladies thing?
No, like a ladies lunch. Like it's going to be light and like we were just going to learn some stuff and they were going to take us out and it was going to be whatever. And so I, literally, but I'm like, no, I can do this. I'm going to do this. It ended up being light. However, sitting in the class, and I'm just going to throw things out. I'm terrible with east and west. I don't know my lefts and rights. They're like port, starboard, north, left, right, saying all the bodies of water. I'm like, and one of the women I have known for many years, but I haven't seen her in a long time. So she was sitting next to me and all of a sudden I was like, wait, where are we right now? Because they were visually, everyone was in the water at this one spot that there's like where like these rolls are. And it's kind of going out of where the marina is. But I went west and everyone else went east, even the teacher.
So when you say visually, they're already out there. Was there like on the board, there's no picture of a boat. There was no drawing on a chalkboard of a boat. So there was no map out of, okay, we are here. It was just take yourself there.
Him telling and everyone being like, oh, okay. And then I was like, and he's like, are you following? And I was like, no. Not even in the slightest. I was like, wait, are we in Eastport? And they're like, no, we're all the way in West Hampton. And I was like, okay, yeah, I have no idea where you guys are. So then he was like, oh, let me pull up a map. It actually was great. He's like, I'm so glad, because one of the ladies next to him, can you like pull the map up? Because one of the other women was a little bit more visual as well, but she happened to know where it was, because I think our house was down the street from like the area. There was like this danger area that we were like talking about the rules, like where things changed, like everything's the same except in this area, and then everything's opposite. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's like then and there and all. I was like, oh man, I hate. It's like you're port, but you're actually stern, but you're really actually that. Like I was like, okay, no idea what any of those. Like I know what the terms are. I see them on the paper. If I was to say, if you were give me like that, I could say, okay, I know ports to the left, stars to the right, because I'm right-handed and that's the star. Like so, there was all these little acronyms that they did, and I'm like, okay, but I physically could not put myself in the situation. And I was like, I have no idea. And it was just so, and the reason why I'm talking about this now, if anyone's listening, like, why the fuck is she telling us about this? Yeah, where's she going with this? It was, I knew that I was going to be fine once I was in the boat. So I knew like the classroom, I was not going to be able to follow. Like I did write some notes, but I was like, none of it's going to do. But that is because I know who I am and how I learn because of the work that I have done. So this is the point. If you know how you learn, if you have a kid that you're teaching, it's so important to teach them the self-awareness about how they learn and how they feel best, and give them the confidence to be able to say, okay, in a situation that I'm not going to understand, because for a second, it was like back in the classroom. Like I literally was back in the classroom and I was like, okay, I am not comprehending. Like my brain was swirling. I was trying to get there and I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And it brought me back to like math class in like 5th grade, right? Where I was like, what? Why is everyone else following? However, I just took a breath and I was like, okay, that's fine, right? I'm going to, it is what it is, but I literally could not follow them. But when the next part of the class was, okay, I'm going to take you in a boat and then we're going to do it, I was able to talk through with the instructor, and I was also able to talk through. So all the women, of course, knew I was dyslexic, right? Because I was like, I'm dyslexic. I don't know what the fuck anyone's talking about. Like, I need everyone to like, and don't worry, don't go back. Cause then a couple of people were like, well, here. And then they tried to teach me. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't mean to be rude. I was like, but I literally I'm not comprehending anything. I have to be out on the water to understand it. So it was fine, but I was confident enough to be able to say that. And there's not a lot of people, I shouldn't say not a lot of people. There are people that are not comfortable doing that. And it takes back to like a kid in a classroom with a teacher. And that's why we're doing this, because we want to be able to give the parents and the kids the confidence and the tools to be able to know you're going to be uncomfortable, but not be like, oh, I'm so dumb. I'm not going to speak up. I'm just going to sit there and be lost and not learn. I knew I was going to be able to do it when I went on the water and asked the right questions. So I was able to go through it, and all the ladies weren't annoyed that I needed to do it that way. They actually appreciated it, because then they were like, oh, wait, okay, I was confused on that. Now I totally get it. So it was a really nice, and I didn't know these women. I knew one again, many years ago.
But that's, you're 100%, obviously we talk about self-esteem, and kudos to you to be able to have that confidence in yourself, knowing, okay, when I got on that water, I'll know, what I'm doing, and I'll know what questions to ask. Where this takes me is, and we talk about this all the time, is that teacher. Again, he's a boat teacher, right?
He was a 22-year-old kid. He actually was pretty good, because then he started doing the visuals and thanked me afterwards.
Right. And that's where I was going to go with that. Obviously he was a young kid and great, but it's just another description, another showcase of how different our brains are. To me, to not have a picture.
And I shouldn't say there was a picture in the book, but it was a picture in a book, and it No, it didn't make any sense, the picture in
Right.
the book, because I couldn't tell if I was left or right where I was pointing. I had to like
You
take the
know,
book and
we are very visual, and like I said, obviously kudos to you to do the work to understand what you need. Obviously, an intimidating setting when you're talking about going, other obviously women in there that you don't know, going to hop into on a boat, which isn't your boat, which just that whole thing right now is just, oh God, sounds so awful. I'd rather be waterboarded than do everything you just did. I relax when I'm on the water.
Oh, I love it. You have not.
What do they? I saw somebody say they like 20 minutes a day looking at water relaxes you or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, that's so awful. Give me farmland.
Yeah.
Never see water. Oh, yes. But
Yeah.
where I'm going with me and my water aren't friends. I know that some countries, some around places in the world that you don't have a lot of water, so I'm trying to help them. But it's this goes back to the segue to learning how we learn, and that's why we do what we do. That's why we blab what we blab. Is there's so many different ways that happens. There's just dyslexics this or that. There's so many different ways. So it's learning how your kid your kid learns. You go back to the neuropsych and writing the suggestions, not the suggestion, what your kid needs. That's why I talk about it a lot, having that binder.
Mm-hmm.
No kid should ever do an oral presentation. No notes should be taken. All these things. Because remember, most people that we're dealing with aren't dyslexic. They have no clue what we're talking about. As we sit in that classroom and we're lost, when we throw a neuropsych or learning a different way at them, they feel how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously your mom's done obviously a great job in your house. We talk about this all the time. You and the unicornness. You got that confidence from your mom to be okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just be like that. So it's Montgomery has that too. We disagree on the innate confidence.
I think I just came out that way and was like, but yes, I think there was definitely factors. Like, yeah,
your mom's a huge factor in my mind. Yes. Because if you to have that, and Montgomery's the same way, right?
And my dad's mom was also, even though because my dad is also has that, but my dad also had a mom that was his huge cheerleader. But I do think that there's a part of us that just have that gene that we kind of were just a little bit more confident. As I said, sometimes my mom would be like, "Yeah, I don't know if this is a situation that you should be confident."
Well, and then again, we've talked about this many times. I don't really need to go down there. I don't believe that happens. I believe that happens from the champion, your third grade. What your mom did.
Right.
That to me is where that, a situation like that is where that confidence comes. In my mind, but
no, and I hear you because it could have went the other way, but I think
correct.
I think we're saying the same thing. I think some people are just have a stronger where it takes so much to knock them down, where some people are a little less. So like I was obviously had in Montgomery and my dad, we had the right person to build that up even more. But I think it would have taken a lot for me to get kicked and stay down, because I think that there was something and we could say a little off in my confidence. But there was a little, something a little spicy in there that was like, okay, it just was a little bit more, but I had the right parental match that helped strengthen that even more. So I think that was like, I think that we're saying the same thing because if I had a parent that kicked me down, I think, yes, it probably, I would have had less confidence, but I still think I would have been more confident than maybe someone that wasn't born with an innate confidence. Yeah. That's my.
And I think this talks about how early in life that this affects us.
Yeah.
your mom knew, with your dad, with your sister, they already knew about it, right? And I think the times that you can't remember or she lifted you up are the times that create you who you are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you.
And my parents, again, I'm not bashing my parents in any shape. They didn't even know. We didn't even know what the word dyslexia was, right? So it's not a shot at my parents, in any fact. They didn't know what it was. So, telling me to do whatever, math or whatever it was at a young age, when your mom took a different approach at it than my parents did, and look what we got. And so it's, is that confidence, is that self-esteem, is everything to me for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And one of the interesting things is, yes, I was not on my boat. I was on a giant, incredible, amazing boat that I will probably never drive because it's not a boat that we probably.
What was it?
No, it was the marina. No, the marina. Yeah, he was doing a little sales. He wanted one of the ladies to be like, go to their husband or whatever, go to themselves and be like, hey, wait, I want to upgrade. It was, we have a tiny boat that I will be able to be like, okay, this is good. However, the real,
let's just, your tiny, my tiny might be different. So what is your tiny?
It's 17 foot. It's not a big boat. They can have 5 people on it. It's just a little boat that's great. Use it, but we don't go in the ocean. It's just a regular. There's no
Where do you go? You live on the ocean.
So we're in the Shinnecock Bay. So we go on the bay and in the canals and all that stuff, which is great, which is fine. We've actually, I never told you this. We got Dan to go in the ocean twice. And when I told the guy, I was like, that's really dangerous. And I was like, I know. And Dan afterwards, both times, he was like, what the hell? He's like, why do I listen to you? And then I was like, you could do it, honey. You're so good. He's like, it has nothing to do with me afterwards. He's like, we almost capsized. It was actually really bad, but I like a little adventure. And so, as we said, and he sometimes will listen, and then it's I can't believe I listened to you. So yeah, no, it stays in the Shinnecock. It's you can go all the way down through West Hampton. I could drive it. It would, which I learned yesterday, I can take it the back roads, not in the ocean. So the way, and I could go to the city and make it in 4 hours. If I was a bigger boat and I wanted to go in the ocean, I can make it to the city in an hour and a half, just like the car. So no, I'm never taking a boat to go to the city.
How long, no traffic, how long from West Hampton to New York City?
An hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah, but it never takes, it's always
it takes 17 hours. Because
it's always
Garden City was only, it just seemed like it took me an hour and a half from Garden City.
Yeah, but I think Garden City is 45 minutes really from the city if there's no traffic, right? And I think we're another, again, remember, I'm really bad with traffic. Really bad with directions. But I believe we're 50 minutes from Garden City. But that's where we're in the beginning. If you're going to East Hampton, I'm 45 minutes from East Hampton. The Hamptons are really long and people don't realize that. Montauk is an hour and a half. In the summer, I don't even go east because it's poke me in the eyes. I'd stay in West Hampton and Remsenburg and go, whatever. But the real
Oyster Bay, how far are you to Oyster Bay?
I don't know. I want to say an hour, but I'm not sure. 45 minutes. I feel like everything's 45 minutes. I say 45 minutes for everything. It's 45 minutes. It takes us 45 minutes. But the real test is going to be when I do it myself. And that will be actually hilarious because the boat that I drove, it was probably a $500,000 boat, 600. It was an insane boat. It was so nice. You couldn't feel, our boat, you get wet. It's it's, if it's windy or you're all, it's, yeah.
See all those reasons right there. You shouldn't be on a boat.
No, I love it. I love it. I love the rocking. So, but the one thing is, one of the kids is if you do have a hard time going in and out of the slip, you could call one of us. And I was like, haha. You just said the wrong thing, but I love it because that's probably what I'll do, which sounds so bratty, but I probably will. I'll be like, hey, can you see that? And then I'm in open waters and I can do that all day long.
Hang on. Probably will. You've already got it speed dialed in your head.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When they said that, I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay.
All done. Check.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sucker.
Thanks for that. Yes, but you still have to make it into and know the rules of like the no wake zones and the buoys and the land, the red right return, and all of these different things that like.
What is it? What's the guy with no arms, no legs, ran over by a road tiller? Isn't that Doug? If he's in the water, boy.
Buoy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so now that everyone has a little insight in the cuckoo there. But
No. They haven't even witnessed the cuckoo in you. Bring up the boxers, then we're going down a fucking next stratosphere cuckoo.
Oh no, the boxers are going on the boat with me. Are you kidding? That's like my favorite thing. And then we go to one of the sandbars and they get to run and chase oh my God, it's the best thing. That is what I'm going to be doing. When Dan's here, we do take them and we have fun, but then the kids don't come because again, it's not like the kids are like, I'm not going. No, that's the worst. It's like the awful. It's too many things on the boat. So when I go to do my work, the boxers will like anchor and they'll just stay on the boat and they love it. They'll just kind of look and watch.
How do you know they love it?
Because I've taken them on it before.
Did you guys talk about it?
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, and every time, and every time I come back and they haven't gone, Herbie gets so pissed. His head is literally in the bag, like sniffing because he knows that that's salt air, and he gets so angry, and then he like flops on the couch and won't talk to me.
Like I just said, the cuckoo-ness, the audience have not even touched upon the cuckoo-ness.
So funny. This is attention deficit.
Hurries you to a T.
Oh, they're the best. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing. But let's circle it back to the learning, because it is very true though. I put myself in an uncomfortable situation where I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I can figure it out because everything in my mind, as I've said to you always, is figure outable. And that's how I've kind of done everything. I mean, anything that I've ever done, I'm like, I'm curious. I love to learn. But learn at my own speed and my own comfort, but I can be out of my comfort zone and be okay.
And again, that was amazing of you because, obviously there was another woman there. How many, I guess you don't have to narrow it down. When you started asking the questions, you mentioned on the boat, and some of the women said, "Oh, okay, now that makes sense to me." How many of those, 25%, 30%, whatever, lots of them, when they said that, how much did they resonate with the questions that you're asking?
Well, one of them goes, you know what? I think I'm actually dyslexic. Now that you just said all this stuff, she's like, this is actually hilarious. She's like, can we talk about this later? And so we all got each other's numbers, put ourselves in like a little group chat. One of the women who, she was awesome. Her name is Amy. She actually is like, I'm a very, very visual learner. She goes, so I was able to, though, I knew where he was talking about because like my house is right down the street from there. She's like, so I knew that like danger area. She goes, so I was able to picture it in my head because I'm visual. So she was one that actually said to the instructor, Kyle, before, like, can we have a little bit more visual? I still knew, even if it was visual and they were talking about a map, I still was not going to know what was going on because I really am bad with directions and maps. And I was like, he's like, I'm east, west. I'm like, okay, on 95, I know that because Long Island, when you're going west, you're going towards the city. When you're going east, you're going to the ocean. So that's just like, I know that. However, in the water, I don't know. No. I can't put my head and put my body. Like I literally was standing up at one point and I was like, what? And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to give up because I knew it wasn't even close to where it was. And then but the other people were asking questions, and yes, some of the women they had more boating experience than I did. So they had more knowledge, but they were able to also explain it when the instructor was explaining it too, which was also great. And so they were receptive to it. And as I said, one of the women was like, oh, okay, now I actually totally see that. No one was as much like I was like, I have to be doing it. Like it took me to lacrosse, in field hockey, which I was laughing about. Like I was always the first one because then I would do it wrong and the coach would yell and be like, don't do it like her. But she would always constantly, because I couldn't listen to the directions. I had to see the drill being done.
Mm-hmm. And that's the visual portion of us. And I always talk about with that Y program when I'm talking to coaches, like you can say the drill, you can draw it on the board, but you have to do it. If you don't do it. There was I remember when I was playing, they'd come in before practice, coaches, and name off the drills. Yeah, and I have to remember what all the drills are for practice. So what drill number 3 was the 2-1-2. This
you messed it up, I'm sure, every time.
I played in Vancouver. Obviously, was one of the better, so I was always asking to go first, and I was like, obviously the coach and I had a love hate fuck you relationship. But screwed up all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
But so that's why I think it's, again, us taking it back. And if someone's been listening to the beginning, they've heard us talk about these scenarios, but in different situations. And I think it's really for everyone that learns, because there's people that are visual learners that are not dyslexic. I also want to say that because someone could be listening and says, well, I do the same thing. I'm not dyslexic. That, there are people that are visual. When you're dyslexic, you are a visual thinker. Like that is what you are. You are right-brained, right? And so it is hearing different scenarios for people that are dyslexic, not dyslexic. It can get them thinking. And that's why we kind of take people down different situations that maybe have happened to us, like the boat and, whatever, like that, because it just helps them be able to picture in their head, oh, wait, when they're going into school. And this is what, someone might be listening to be like, that's okay. No one needs to know about your fucking boat, right? No one needs to know it. However, fast forward to October, their kid's going through something and they're like, wait, that damn boat podcast. Oh, wait, the math. And it then solidifies in your brain. So sometimes these kind of conversations where they're a little bit lighter, they, take you through personal experiences of ours, sometimes are going to resonate with people a little bit longer and stick in their brain to be able then to help.
Yeah. And, and when we talk about the way people learn, and it's not just dyslexics or dysgraphics, or it's every one of us. Every single person has their way of learning, no matter if you're dyslexic or not dyslexic, ADHD, whatever that is. So when we do speak to this, we're speaking to everybody. It doesn't matter what you are. Say if you're don't have learning disorders, great, perfect, no problem, awesome, that's you. You're going to learn a specific way. Yeah. And I don't know that. I will never know that way or understand that way. So as we speak, we're not speaking directly to just dyslexics or ADHD. We're speaking to everybody. The way you learn is like your love languages. I don't know what those are. Your husband won't know what those are. Your wife won't know those, until you talk about them. You're different people. So same kind of, same concept. It's just not just to the dyslexics. The more we all learn how we learn and are able to describe them to other teachers or other coworkers or bosses or spouses, the more your day is going to get easier and more productive and better, because you're able to describe how you best learn.
Yep. I'm going to leave it at that. Boom. Thank you for joining another episode of Word Blindness.
Boom.
Boom.
Ooh.
Boom.
Hot.
That means yes. Dyslexia Exposed. You guys, I say it every single time, so you're not going to be surprised what I say now. Like, rate, review, and share. You don't know who needs to hear this. You don't know who is going into, when they're listening to this, if they're going into the school. Don't forget to also check out the sopelfoundation.org for the toolkit. We are adding to that all the time right now. There's the end of the year. That's the end of the year podcast, not podcast, the end of the year checklist. Thank you. Checklist podcast. We're on a podcast. The end of the year checklist. Some people are still in school. In New York, we're still in school. We still got a couple weeks. Painful.
When are you guys done?
The 26th.
The 26th. So today, 26th. Are you kidding me?
No. The kids have regions next week. Yeah. Everyone's done. Everyone's done. In their head, we are all done. And now they have like big tests.
I remember, some of the kids, Liam, he was done the 23rd of May.
Yeah. I wish we were done the 20th. I mean, again, we go back late, so I can't complain, but I don't know which is better or worse, but it is, I
know, back in Saskatchewan, I don't know if we ever gone on this. Why? Did we talk about this? Or?
Yeah, I think it's because isn't it the universities or something, right?
I thought that's why they switched is because City of Chicago is still in too.
Right.
They the same as you. They go back after
Labor Day
long weekend. So they go to us. So I think everywhere else here in Illinois is done in all of Illinois except for
the
downtown Chicago public schools.
Right. And that stinks. Yeah, I always kind of equate, like, we're in a beach town. So I was like, they do it after Labor Day because people also in our town, a lot of people rent their houses out for the summer. A lot of teachers and stuff that live in the community, they'll rent their houses out, make a shit ton of money in the summer, and they go somewhere else. And so they are teachers. So, but I know that's like a small portion, but I don't really, I think what you say is probably actually that's correct, is the universities. When we were in Connecticut, we ended like this week, or last week. So and even though I forget when we went back, but
because colleges, a lot of universities and colleges, they've been out for a month, like the first or second week of May that they were done. Yeah.
And down south, they've been done. They graduated, like Memorial Day weekend, like my family and friends that are down there. So, yeah. So so if you're in New York and you need a checklist, go to that. But we also are going to be adding the back to school checklist. So like you can get that. We're going to be putting that up in July for the people that go back in August. And then we're going to be continuing to add that. So go to the sopelfoundation.org. If you guys have any kind of questions or have anything that you want us to talk about, if you listen to the last episode, it's now probably a couple weeks ago on the neurodiversity, we had some people kind of chime in, send some voice notes, which was fun. There's places to go. You can find us obviously on all LinkedIn. You can also find us on IG, Sopel Foundation. You can also go to Brent Sopel. You can also go to I Am Juliette Hahn. You can go to Word Blindness. There's a lot of places that you can find us. We're not hiding.
And there's never a bad question.
Ever.
If you're thinking it or going through it, somebody else is too.
100%. Yep. So like, rate, review, and share, and we'll see you for another episode of Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed.